guys? Man Cave Collectibles coming back at you today with another figure review. Today we're going to take a look at the amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Ironman Bleeding Edge Armor. So this is part of Revoltech's Marvel line. They have done figures such as Venom and Carnage. Trying to think, Spider-Man. They've done a whole slew of Marvel characters. I've actually owned some of the earlier ones, which was like the Venom, Spider-Man, Wolverine. I owned those, and I ended up selling them. I had a real hard time with the joints and the way those joints looked. The Revoltech joints were very kind of in your face. Here's the joint, see the joint. I had a hard time with that, so I ended up selling them. I love the posability of them, and if you're an action figure photographer, I think they were fantastic because you can pose them in certain ways and take your shot and be able to kind of hide those joints. As far as just putting them up on your shelf for display, they were tough for me. I couldn't get past it. Very hard to hide them from that standpoint, and they were just kind of, bam, right there. Just didn't look good to me for my collection. But I totally respect anybody who enjoys having them in their collection. Now, with the Iron Man, I have noticed that those joints are not as in your face. And it looks like the War Machine, which is coming early this year, 2020, is going to kind of be the same way. So I picked this guy up and kind of hoping for the best with these. My real hope is that these will pose well with some of my Mafex Marvel figures. So we'll get this guy out of the box and do some size comparisons, take a look at his accessories. But let's start with the box first. Got real nice packaging here. Kind of hard to see him because they do have like a layer of plastic film kind of laid over him to protect the paint, I guess. So not the best as far as viewing your figure through the window. Nice artwork around the box itself. On the side here, we've just got some kind of comic book looking art. On the back, I do enjoy the back of the Amazing Yamaguchi boxes because they do actually do some actual comic book art. So, for instance here, Miss Potts, I'm sure this thought has already occurred to you, but this is a terrible product launch. So, they kind of do just some funny stuff on the back, kind of interesting. I don't do inbox collecting. I take everything out of the box, put on my shelf. So this will just go into storage, but pretty neat how they do. Kind of shows what type of accessories, would come with this. A lot of writing that I can't read. And then on this side, we just have a picture of the figure itself and kind of posed with some of these effects that we'll get into later. So that's what we got as far as the box. Let's get him out of the box and take a look at what we got. All right, guys, we got Iron Man out of his packaging, and he looks fantastic. I like the size. The scale looks good. We'll get a little more into size comparisons here in a little bit, but first we just kind of want to take a quick look at the articulation, just the basic articulation on him. We can already see aesthetically he looks better to me than the previous Revoltech releases. If you look at his knees, his shoulders, elbow areas, all that's just cleaner. And I guess being that he's armored up, that makes it easier for the Revoltech joints to be hidden. But just kind of real quick running through, we got some side to side up here on the neck area. A little bit of up, a little bit of down, a lot of up, which is nice if you're going to do flying poses. This whole neck area actually moves and hinges a little bit. Even this collar, if you can kind of see that collar there, you can move that just a little bit, not a whole lot, but it is kind of free floating there on the mold. As far as in his shoulder areas, you can see the Revoltech joint underneath this shoulder armor, and so we can get our arms out to about right there. So we cannot get the full 360 because of the way this joint is actually attached. I don't know if we can quite see it, but it's attached to the back of that arm. So it's not going to allow for the full 360. In his elbows here, we can get to about there. It is not a double jointed elbow. You can see there, it is just the Revoltech joint. So that's why it's a little better than the 90 degrees, maybe about 45 degrees on the elbow there. And then as far as in the wrist here, we can do the full 360 on the wrist. And we got in and a little bit of out, this kind of gauntlet here that he has on his wrist, which can be removed, is kind of preventing a little bit of articulation there. His butterfly joints, we're able to get in that far, and then we can get those shoulders back about that far. So real nice for flying poses. I think he would be fantastic for that. As far as crouch, I mean, ab crunch there, we've got a lot of ab crunch. Can basically look straight down. And then back, we can get to about there. So pretty good there too. Get a good range of motion side to side. As far as in the legs, we can get our legs up to about there. Now, one thing he does have is he has a thigh swivel here. So you can see how that thigh swivels there on just a swivel. You can almost get it all the way around. Great movement in the knee. Got a little bit of calf swivel here. And then we got ankle articulation. The ankle articulation is a little bit limited just due to all this armor and things here. So you can see we can get the foot up to about there. Not a lot. That way about to there. And then we've got some toe articulation, which really not a ton, but it is some. So that's about it for articulation. I want to throw up some quick screenshots of the accessories that comes with this guy. There is a lot of them. We've got connectors and, you know, phase blast and, you know, all kinds of burst rockets, you know, wings that would go on them. I mean, there's a lot of things here, as you can see from these pictures. So one thing I do want to cover with you is on the directions for this guy. They're not the easiest directions to understand. You can see they're not in English. And, you know, one of the most popular promotional pictures we've seen are the pictures with the kind of the rocket barrage coming out of his back. So as I was looking at this, what you get is you get these little connectors, which we see right here. This little connector. So this connector, those 4 ports are what your rocket effects will port into, and then they port into the back of him in these little, you can see these little shoulder ports here. But if you actually look at the directions that they give us, the directions show these ports. You know, you input your rockets into the ports, and then you connect it to that, but it doesn't actually tell you you have to take a Revoltech joint from somewhere else in order to make that happen. You can see on the back of this, out of the box, there's nothing there to connect into the hole on his back. So what you end up having to do is it comes with additional Revoltech joints. You end up taking just a Revoltech joint, putting it into that port, and then that port, or that joint, will then slide into this port in his back. If I can get it to go in on camera. There. And then you've now got the rockets, you know, ready to be posed on his back. So again, that's not super, you know, it's not easy to understand based on these, considering it's not written in English. So nowhere on there does it say, well, in English, it doesn't say take a Revoltech joint. This may say that, I have no clue. If you can read Japanese or Chinese, whatever this is written in, you know, feel free to comment on it. But I kind of had to play with it to be able to figure that out. Last thing, as far as our accessories, you do get the amazing Yamaguchi stand. That stand, you know, can pour into his back, or it does have the little clamp that you can use. But, you know, typically for most, there's just a port in his back, and you would slide it in that way. And then you just would basically, you know, have to fasten up the screws there and, you know, put it how you want it. So pretty good accessories. I'm very pleased with those. And we'll move on and take a look at some size comparisons. All right, guys, so we got our Mafex comic book version Spider-Man here. One of my favorite figures. To me, I think this is the best Spider-Man figure out there. That includes anything in the Marvel Legends realm as well. Marvel Legends has some good ones. I think this tops them all. I believe what I got here is going to be perfect. I was actually hoping that these Revoltech Ironman and War Machine could fit in with my Mafex line. And based on what we see here, I would be happy with that. Iron Man is bigger than Spidey, which is how it should be. He's not hugely bigger, but he is bigger. So I like the look of that. We'll bring in it's the Green Ranger from the Hasbro Lightning collection. Bring him in, see how he looks. I like it. Again, Iron Man to me should be bigger than your average 6-inch action figure because of all the armor. So I like the way that looks. Take him out, we'll compare him to a NECA Ninja Turtle. So that probably doesn't really scale well, but again, these NECA Turtles are really more, I think, in a 7-inch scale than a 6-inch scale. So, you know, you got to take that into consideration. But overall, I really like this figure. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun trying to get him posed and figure out how I'm going to display him here on my shelf, along with the Mafex figures. And I'm really looking forward to the War Machine that I'm hoping is coming out sometime this month or at least next month. So if you like this video, click like and subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. I'll continue to do new content every couple of days. And hope you guys have a good 2020. Happy New Year. See you next time.